And welcome, ladies, to Training Tuesday. I'm thrilled to have you here tonight. And tonight we're talking about the power of your words. So I'm looking forward to digging into this one because I think this particular chakra that we're talking about tonight, the throat chakra, is one of the most important chakras that we can try to get into alignment. It is key to the way we communicate, the way we feel when we communicate. It's key to not only how we manage our internal energy, but to the energy that we're engaging with out in the rest of the world. So, tonight we're going to talk about what it means to use our voice, how we use our voice, why it's important to look at both the words we choose as well as the energy and the intent behind it. So I'm going to ask you to come along on this conversation with me to talk about our throat chakra. Because we know that words are powerful. And I said this in a video earlier today where I was reminding you guys that we have it tonight going on. I was talking about the fact that the throat chakra is the connector. It's the connector between the chakras that are lower down, right? So heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root chakra, which all have a lot of internal focus energy, right? It's all about how we carry ourselves, how we hold ourselves, how we show up with our energy. And then we have the throat chakra, which is the connector between the energy that is all about where we are externally, the energy that we're grabbing from the rest of the world, the rest of the universe, how we're pulling that in order to use it, right? In order for it to support us and to buoy us up. So we are going to talk about words and the power of words, but we're also going to talk tonight about where that shows up, where that energy shows up, and how it's a lot more than just the words that are at the heart of our throat chakra. So before I get started and we start diving in, I'm going to say hello. My name is Natalie Hahn. I am CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting, and I am very happy to have you guys joining us tonight. As always, say hi in the chat. I see Christine is here. Hi, Christine. And Christine and I actually had a conversation recently about the power of words and choosing certain words in certain situations because it's important, right? The words that we choose reflect where we are internally and how we're positioning things. And the words that we choose can have an impact on other people in terms of whether they're triggered by it, whether it's emotionally charged words or not. We're not going to actually get into some of those details tonight, though. I want to talk a little bit bigger picture about where the throat chakra energy is, how it impacts everything, and how we need to care for it. And I see Rose is here. Hello, Rose. So if you're joining us and it's the first time, welcome. Would love for you to say hello in the chat, tell us where you're from, and make sure that you ask your questions and you engage with us through the chat. I love answering your questions if you have them. I try to keep up with the comments as they show up in the live. If you just want to share a story of where something I'm talking about has come up for you, would love for you to share that as well. This is all about us having a conversation, not just me talking at you. So let us dig into the throat chakra. Okay, so communication hub. This chakra is called Visuddha, right? Visuddha. It is associated with clarity, with truth, with responsibility. So they're right there, right? We already know way bigger than just pick your words carefully. It is responsible not just for the words we use and how we speak, it's responsible for how we listen. So while it's called the throat chakra, the area that this ball of energy encompasses is actually from like here, your nose, to your collarbone. So your throat, your ears, your sinuses kind of all fall into this area. And when we talk about kind of physical reactions, this is where it shows up, right? This is where it shows up. Now, I mentioned that this is the connector energy, right? From your root to your sacral, to your solar plexus, to your heart, all of these are tied to your physical body. We get to, and so earth elements are involved. When we get to the throat chakra, we're now connecting to what's happening in our head, right? Celestial energy, universal energy, what we're pulling in from the universe. So your third eye and your crown chakra are about the external universal energy, and how we connect with that. And we'll be talking more about that in the next couple of weeks. So the throat chakra, it connects those two. It connects your internal kind of root organic energy with universal energy. This is one of the things that's, I think, key about this connector that I do want to point out for a lot of you is it connects the way we speak, right? So it connects all the stuff happening up here and in our head with what's happening in the rest of our body. And keep in mind, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, your sacral chakra is where creativity takes place, right? It's where our energy about creativity and imagination flourishes, right? In our sacral chakra. If our root chakra is blocked, we have no good way of getting that out. We have no good way of expressing that, of communicating that. And so creativity doesn't flourish, unless we're sharing it, right? Unless it has an audience, unless it has people receiving it and giving you feedback. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's another reason why the channel, right, of the energies, of the chakral energies as they go up your spine are so important. They are connected and they do support each other. And as I've said in the past, if you're worried about energy blocks, always start with your root chakra. Start with that one and work your way up. Because if your root chakra is blocked, everything else is going to be a bit whacked out of alignment anyway. Hey, Rochelle, I see you there. And your question was Visuddha. Is that how it's spelled? Vushuddha. You know what? I'll try to remember to put it in the notes too. Actually, I'll just do it right now. Visuddha. Hold on. Let me make sure I get that right. There we go. So that's the name of your throat chakra, Visuddha. Hey, Cindy. Good to see you here. I haven't seen you in a while. It's nice to see you. All right. I want you to think for a moment, and I want you to put it in the chat. Actually, put in the chat for me, when you think about your relationships at work and at home, what are some of the things that we communicate? What are some of the things that are important to communicate? And I'm going to take the easy ones off the table, right? It's important to communicate when we love something. It's important to communicate when we're hurt by something. What else do we communicate? Share for me in the chat. When you think about needing to communicate with somebody, talk to them, tell them something, at work or at home, what are the types of things you're communicating? What are the things that you have to say? What are the things you have to say? So put for me in the chat some of the things that you have to say when you're communicating. What are some of those words, not even the words and phrases, like what are some of the things you're doing with your voice? We're telling people we love something. We're telling them we hate something. Absolutely, Cindy. We're asking for clarification, right? If you're leading a team, what else are you doing? Give me more, guys. We're giving direction, right? What else are you doing when you communicate? You might be giving feedback. Conflict resolution, absolutely. You might be communicating the need to be respected, precisely. Yep, relaying information, exactly, sharing information, right. You might be keeping them informed, right. You might be sharing information, you might be setting an expectation or a boundary. That's what Rose is referring to, right. When we're looking to command respect, we're setting a boundary. We're actually saying, this is where and how you get to communicate with me. It's a boundary that commands respect. Hey, Sue, it's good to see you. Collaboration, absolutely. We're sharing. We're offering advice or we're asking for advice, right? We're trying to open the channels of communication both ways. Project management, absolutely. We're giving direction or explaining an idea. Christine, letting Erwin know she's the alpha. Let's see, that would be maybe setting a boundary. Could be offering advice to Erwin, like he'd be smart to remember this, giving direction. Telling a story, explaining an idea. You guys got it. Hey Jill, good to see you. Complimenting, right, sharing something good. And actually that leads right to my next question, which is when is the last time that someone told you you did a good job? When is the last time somebody told you you did great work? And I want you to think about that last time and tell me in the chat, how did it make you feel? The last time someone told you, hey, you did a great job with that, nice work, how did it make you feel? Right? A lot of us respond to that. If you watched my earlier training on love languages, you know that words of affirmation, one of our love languages. And when that is high up in our love language list, we often feel appreciated. More importantly, we feel seen. We feel recognized. So, when is the last time you complimented somebody? And when you did, how did they feel? What was their response to being complimented? Excellent, Rochelle. Awesome today. Yeah, recognition is so huge for people too. Recognition is how we are seen. It's how we feel connected. Christine says she's lucky. Patients tell you daily. That is true. And you are lucky, actually, that you have not only the relationship with your patients, which obviously you earn, but you have an environment also that allows that to happen. You're getting constant feedback of, are we engaging the right way? So, Rose, yesterday it felt kind of like whatever because they had been micromanaging. So they finally turn around and give you a compliment, and that's supposed to make it all better, right? Yeah, so the last time Rochelle said that today she complimented somebody or she told somebody they did a good job and she got a big smile. This is the power of our words, right? When we share words and the words we choose to share, they have a visceral and emotional impact. And this is why it makes such a difference, not only in how we're impacting others, but in how we feel. This is why when we work on communication skills, right, with the women that I coach with, when we're working on our communication skills, we do talk about specific word choices. We do talk about using emotionally charged versus non-emotionally charged language, depending on the type of conversation we're trying to have and the personality that we're dealing with. And if you guys have done other trainings with me or worked with me before, you know I also have a cheat sheet for the way words that we use that we should avoid, right? Or phrases that we use that undermine us. So communication is huge. It impacts us at work. It impacts our personal relationships. Cindy nailed it. Words have energy. They carry weight. Even the non-emotionally charged words still make an impression, right? So when we have an open throat chakra, right, we share, we communicate, we connect. The truth is we're vulnerable. We open ourselves up because we are expressing who we are all the way down the rest of our chakras, from our root chakra to that creative sacral chakra, to our confidence in our solar plexus, to the emotions in our heart. All of that funnels up and comes out our voice. That is when our throat chakra is opened and we are strong and we are empowered. But when our throat chakra is closed, we can fall into an overactive or an underactive, right, phrase. When they're closed, you guys have heard me talk about the chakras before, you know, we can fall into overactive or underactive energy then with our chakras. When the throat chakra is blocked and it's an underactive throat chakra, right, we're underactive, what happens? Our throat tightens. That inability to speak, right? Something needs to be said and we can't get the words out. We might feel literally blocked. We might feel choked. If you're emotional on top of it, it might be a constriction and you can feel the tears coming. Whether it's anger or sadness or whatever, it can be emotional. Even if it's not tied to that, you know that closed off feeling in your throat where you just can't get the words out. And you might even have a little bit of panic there, right? This happens to us at work. When we're underactive in our throat chakra, when it's closed off that way, oftentimes it shows up how? Trying to speak up in a meeting, trying to defend ourselves, and we feel stuck, right? What compounds it is if we get emotional, we hate crying at work. We do. We think it shows weakness, right? It shows all this emotionalism, it shows all this weakness. All the men in particular are going to look at us and say, you're getting too emotional. It's an expression of our feelings. So it's a whole other conversation to say it's okay to cry at work and you shouldn't have to defend that. But separately, knowing that we hate it, knowing that that's our visceral reaction, it adds to our stress. Do you think we can speak any more clearly once we start to cry? We don't, right? This imbalance in our throat chakra can also be a fear of public speaking, right? It could be your throat constricts, or you kind of stutter, or all the words fly out of your mind, right? When you get in front of a group or on stage. Maybe you're one of those people who you'll speak, but you speak so low, nobody can hear you. You're so quiet. Nobody hears you. Nobody fully hears what it is that you're saying. Sorry, I have to unblock my own throat chakra. I just felt a tickle in my throat. So I know some people who have brilliant things to say. I know some women who have brilliant things to say, but they're so quiet. They don't speak up and share their words. This could be a sign of we're blocked. We're not really willing to step out and be heard in that meeting, right? We're not really willing to offer our opinion because it puts us at risk. Your blocked Visuddha might also be an unwillingness to defend yourself, to express your opinion, or even to state your choices. You have options and you don't even want to state those. We worry that these opinions that we have, we worry that these options we have might distress other people, make them uncomfortable, so we don't voice them. When difficult conversations arise, we might just shut down, not communicate at all, not participate, which means we're not opening the door for vulnerable communication at all. We will struggle to how we express ourselves, right? When our throat chakra is blocked, we either won't say exactly what we mean to say, or we struggle with finding the words to say it. And a couple of things happen. We can express ourselves a little bit like a robot on autopilot, just keeping our conversations very limited and very rigid and not delving into the full spectrum of life and energy and emotions. We can, or we just struggle. We struggle with, how do I even share this idea? I don't even know how to explain it, right? We fall into, I don't know how to explain it, or it's too complex, or it's just too much. If we have any sort of creative talent, this can be a huge block for us, right? The inability to express our creativity, where it shows up, what we're trying to do, the ideas, the energy we're trying to convey. That can be huge for us if we can't get that out. So I'm curious, everything that I've covered so far, any of these things sounding familiar? This is when you have an underactive throat chakra. Now, ways that we get here, right? We get to this place of an underactive throat chakra can be because usually rooted in some insecurity, but that's usually come out because we've been in some environment where we've been around people who have been more overbearing. And so, for example, if you were raised in this household of children are to be seen and not heard, we've been trained not to be heard. Literally from childhood, you have been trained not to speak up. Not polite, good girls don't do it, right? Good girls are the girls who don't create all the ruckus in the classroom. We learn it at school as well, right? We be quiet, we behave, which means expressing that opinion, expressing that thought, speaking up creates huge anxiety. I'm not supposed to do that. Somebody will get mad at me. So if your parents were especially strict in this regard, or just the cultural or family environment you're in was especially strict in this regard, that could be where it comes from. Sometimes this self-esteem issue gets rooted so deeply that we believe we don't deserve to be heard. We don't have the right to speak up. Our needs aren't enough for our voice to be valid. So we find it more comfortable to deny our needs, to deny what we have to say, our opinions, our thoughts, than to voice them, which means over and over again, we are choosing others over ourselves. When your throat chakra is closed and you cannot speak up for yourself, you are choosing others over yourself. Write that down. That's an important one. And this is why it is so important for us to learn how to use our voice, to believe in what we're saying, and to believe in ourselves. It always all comes back down to the inner core stuff that we talk about all the time. Now, an overactive throat chakra shows up in almost the opposite way, but you'll see the thread still. And so Jill relates to the underactive chakra. So underactive or overactive, I just described kind of the underactive scenarios. Overactive is where we don't want to be silenced, and we're afraid if we're silenced and we're not heard, we have no value. So we talk too much. We ramble on too much. We start taking over a conversation or a meeting, and it's almost like we can't help ourselves. We just keep going. And if you're not one of those people, then you know people like this. I remember distinctly, I think I was 16, and I was at a party with adults. It was an odd party. It was a party the community I was living in was having for the teens, but it was for us specifically to mingle with adults. And they would have done well to teach us some networking kind of socializing skills before they threw us in. Because I remember talking the ear off of this one really good looking Army officer who was way older than me. So like, while the romantic possibility wasn't there, I was 16 and young enough to think maybe it would be. And I just kept talking, because if I stopped talking, he might go away. And if I kept talking, he would see how smart I was and that I had all this value, that I was important and valuable and interesting. So I just kept going. It was ridiculous. And after he escaped, and it was an escape, it was clearly an escape. What happened was, as he walked away, I realized, oh, he literally just ran away from me. I probably could have stopped talking 20 minutes ago, right? So, overactive. Out of balance, but overactive. We talk too much. We ramble too much. We might put our foot in our mouths, make misstatements. We get frustrated easily, and so we start swearing, and we shouldn't be swearing, right? When we are somewhat inappropriate in our conversations, we can have an overactive throat chakra. And again, it's like the filters are off. Impulse control is a little bit off. And so we just keep going. If you find yourself interrupting others, talking over others, this can also be an overactive throat chakra, the need to get the last word in. So if that's the case, you want to look for ways to tune down the Visuddha energy, right? Rather than turning it up, we want to turn it down. So you start paying attention. I'm going to talk about the things we pay attention to get our chakras in balance. And you're going to want to start paying attention to, wow, is there too much of this happening in my life, in my space? And do I want to work with that? So, as I mentioned, like physically, this is the area, right, of your throat chakra. So, soreness of throat, shoulder pain, right in here, neck and shoulder pain, issues with your glands, issues with your ears can all be technically, theoretically related to the throat chakra. Now, I'm going to pause here, as I do with all our chakra stuff, as I'm talking about this, because I realize there is, as far as I know, there is no actual scientific medical data that says anything medically that happens here is tied to your chakras. So I am not making an argument from a religious or philosophical point of view about this. The reason we talk about the chakras is because energy. What I am talking about is how we hold energy in our body and how we use our energy to show up as our best selves every day. As our best selves who are managing our careers, who are changing careers, who are managing our relationships and our families and our lives. So, as always, think about ball of energy that we hold here in our body, this realm of energy, all related to how we communicate. And if this part of our body is unhealthy, does that impact the way we communicate? Absolutely. It absolutely does. So, I'm going to talk now about some of the things we do to get it back in balance. And I see Rochelle here has a question. Me and my sister say we were raised by wolves. Overactive at times, underactive. Rochelle, if you're asking where the balance is, we're going to talk about that, right? And what you're pointing to actually is a really good point, which is our energy fluctuates. We can be overactive one moment and underactive in another moment, right? It's our energy can be stuck in one place, but it can also fluctuate between overactive and underactive. And so balance is all about paying attention. It is truly about paying attention to where you are the most comfortable in yourself, the most able to express yourself clearly and confidently, the most able to put all of your good juju energy out in the universe and not worry about what other people think. And that's a huge one for your throat chakra. Because when we stop ourselves from communicating because we're worried about what other people think, we're not communicating, are we? So again, going back to the success we have here in our throat chakra and communicating who we are and showing up who we are and as we are has everything to do with being in alignment with all the other chakras we've talked about already, right? Your root, which is all about safety and security, your sacral, which is all about creativity and sexuality and joy, your solar plexus, which is all about confidence, right? Standing our ground, standing in our own strength. Heart, all about our emotions and how we manage our emotions and how we open up to the world. And our throat, how we share with the world. So, and I realize I'm running late on time. These chakra ones always run a little bit later. I get so excited, I get overactive in my throat chakra. So, sorry about that. If you can stick with me a few minutes longer, let's talk about throat chakra. Color is blue. Blue. So if you're finding yourself with the underactive, find more blue in your life. Wear it, put it in your room. Overactive, you might need to tone down the blue. Moving energy, right? I'm all about moving energy when it comes to our chakras because this is how we feel it in our body. We get more awareness inside our body, so we're more sensitively tied into where energy is showing up and how. So yoga poses that are all about opening up the throat chakra. Fish pose. So fish pose is where, let me think about how we do this. I should have thought about this before I wrote down the note. Oh, you should tell them about fish pose. Bend your arms and support yourself, bringing yourself on your elbows under your shoulders. So you are trying to figure out how to describe this to you guys. It's almost like a little mini cobra. Okay, you're bending your arms, but it's in the inverse. You're laying on your back with your arms behind you, supporting yourself. And you're puffing your chest up and you're rolling your head back. So you're literally exposing the whole front of your chest and your throat to the universe above. So you're laying on your back with your arms behind you, propping your shoulders up, and you are stretching back and you're putting your head back like a little mini back bend. Okay, that's fish pose. So drop your head back, open your throat to the ceiling. If you're truly flexible in here, you might rest the crown of your head on the floor. If not, don't worry about it. I can't do it. But the whole point is stretching and opening that up. The other one is actually baby cobra. So opposite. You're laying on your stomach this time with your arms under you, feet straight out behind you, and you're curving upwards, right? So one is you're laying on your back and you're opening yourself up, and that's fish pose. Baby cobra, you're laying forward on your stomach and you're opening your head up and back. So those are the two yoga poses you should pay attention to. Now, meditation and mantras, my favorites. So as you know, I'm a big fan of mantras. Now the basic mantra, which is the sound that vibrates with your throat, is, go figure, hum, hum. You could literally meditate and just repeat that sound over and over, and that vibrates with your throat chakra. If you want to use more verbal mantras, right, which are phrases that we repeat over and over because we are reprogramming our thought process, we're reprogramming our brains, then some of the mantras, and you can use any versions of these that work for you, but some of the mantras that work for your throat chakra include things like, I am calm and able to speak effectively. I live an honest, authentic, and wholehearted life. My words are powerful. I speak with calm, clarity, and confidence. I speak with courage, compassion, and love. So you can see the common thread here, right, with these mantras. This is all about saying who I am comfortable with, I am centered in, and I communicate that clearly. Now, mudras are my favorite tool in meditation. So if you meditate, again, mantras are huge. You repeat them over and over. It gives you the phrase to focus your energy around so that you know that you're bringing your focus and your energy right to your throat chakra. Mudras are a way to hold your body. And the idea is that the energy in our hands and in our nerve endings help us channel that energy as well. So one of the mudras that you might think about for your throat chakra is called Vishuddhu. Vishuddhu. With Vishuddhu, you interlock your fingers, your thumbs touch, palms up and resting in your lap. So interlocked fingers, I have to look at the camera here to see if I can show you this properly. So interlocked fingers, thumbs touch, and then you flip it so that this is actually sitting down in your lap with your palms up. Okay, that's Vishuddhu. Granthita. Granthita is a mudra where you interlock your three fingers, pinky, ring finger, middle finger, interlock. Okay. Oh, sorry, you interlock them inside your hands. So internal, oh, sorry, I'm not showing you, internal interlock. Your bottom three fingers, your index finger and your thumb interlock to form rings. So the best way for me to show you this is what you're doing with your thumb and your forefinger, interlocking. And then these three fingers come together inside. And then this is what you hold in your lap. This little knot in your hands is what you hold in your lap. So index finger and thumb together and interlocked, three fingers internal, and then you hold that in your lap. That's called Granthita. Did I have a third one, or were there just those two I was going to show you? Those are the two I was going to show you tonight. All right. Gemstones, obviously blue gemstones are what we associate with the throat chakra. So aquamarine, sodalite, lapis lazuli, turquoise, amazonite. If you're into gemstones and collecting gemstones, make sure you have those in your bag. The best essential oils for the throat chakra. So if you like to have the essence of essential oils in your house, if you use them at all in any of your lotions or anything, best ones for the throat chakra are cypress, peppermint, eucalyptus, chamomile, sage, right? These are all oils that are designed, the scents of them, right, are designed to calm us. I should say designed, this is the effect they have. They calm us. They help us slow down. And typically, when our mind is calm, when we have slowed our energy a little bit, our thoughts and our communication flow a little more freely. So that's what you might use for that. Now, I wanted to mention before I let you guys go tonight just a couple of other things that you might use in terms of the throat chakra. Oh, Rochelle, I see your question. Vishuddhu was that first mudra. Vishuddhu. Vishuddhu. So that's the one where we interlock, touch the thumbs, and then just hold it upright in your lap. Okay, other tactics. If you're thinking about, I may have some issues here, I'm not communicating as well as I could or I should, or I'm over communicating, protecting your neck, wearing a scarf, wearing high neck sweaters or something like that, but something that cozies up to your neck, keeps you safe, brings attention to your throat area. Follow the practice of professional singers, right? So what do? They drink warm tea and honey, right, to keep it coated and to keep it lubricated. They also do voice exercises. They literally train their vocal cords. You might try herbs for sore throats, even if your throat isn't sore. This is just to give it treatment. It's just like we get a massage sometimes and our muscles don't really hurt. Herbs such as slippery elm, marshmallow, and elderberry are supposed to be good for this. Humming is a big one, right? Just that, and that's why the whole mantra is hum. It's the vibration in your throat that wakes up that energy, and it wakes it up and calms it down at the same time. All right, why am I spending so much time? Because I know I went over, why am I spending so much time on this? Because communication is key to everything. Everything we do. Communication is key to your personal relationships, to your professional relationships. How we communicate is key to how you show up at work, how you communicate with your coworkers, with the teams that work for you, with the teams that you work for. all of this impacts your ability to accelerate your career, your ability to change fields, your ability to start your own business. How we communicate determines, to a large extent, if we're staying married or not, if we have a good relationship with our kids, if we're still talking to our parents, right? There's all of this hinges on the power of our words. But what I really wanted you to understand tonight, and the reason I went through all of that, was because it's not just about the words. It is about, I think Cindy said this, it's about the energy behind the words. It's about the impact of the words. It's about the clarity we have in our word choice. It goes so much deeper than a well-constructed sentence, right? The ability to communicate our intention, the ability to communicate our emotions, the ability to communicate our ideas, that's how we share who we are. That's how we share the most important parts of ourselves, and that makes us vulnerable. A person who chooses to be vulnerable in front of other people is a person who has a strong sense of confidence and of themselves, because they are not fearing the opinions of other people. They are expressing themselves freely without fear of judgment. They can acknowledge their weaknesses and their fears, and also acknowledge that they can get through it. So this, and the words we choose, it's so much more than just vocabulary. It's so much more than trying not to hurt somebody's feelings. This is truly about how we show up fully as ourselves in all of our power and unapologetically for who we are, for how we are, for who we want to be and who we're going to be. When your fifth chakra, right, is blocked, when this is blocked, we can't do any of it because we're living in fear of how other people will perceive us. We're living in fear of the reaction that we're going to get. We can't move forward as long as we're living in fear. So I'm going to leave it there. If you ladies have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you're watching this in replay, still drop your questions in the chat. I will be coming back to this to check on it. And as always, if you are struggling with your throat chakra, if you are struggling because you talk too much or you're not speaking up enough, and I do run into the underactive more than I do the overactive with the women that I work with, but we have both. If you are struggling to figure out what to say, when to say it, how to say it, if you are struggling to figure out who you are, and that's why you're having a hard time communicating, then let's have a conversation. I offer a free 15-minute coaching conversation. It's called the Dirty Girl Mini Dig. I love having these conversations with you guys because the goal of the conversation is to kickstart you one step closer to your goal. So we get in these conversations to figure out quickly what's your goal, what are you aiming towards, what are you trying to improve, what are you focused on, and then we get you one concrete step closer to achieving that goal. That is the purpose of the Dirty Girl Mini Dig. So if you would like to have that conversation, drop the word dig in the chat. I will follow up with you over Facebook Messenger, and we will coordinate a time for us to have that conversation. Otherwise, ladies, thank you for joining me on Training Tuesday. As always, my pleasure. I love having you guys here, and I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. Have a great night, and like I said, drop the word dig if you want to have a chat. I would love to talk with you further.